Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, Chapter 6, The Liberation of Sarvam Bhattacharya, Text 179. और ये किच्छु कहे सकल ई कल्पना, स्वतः प्रमाण वेद वाक्य कल्पे न लक्षणा. और ये किच्छु कहे. R means apart from this, other than this. Ye kichu kahe, whatever other things people may say. Sakala I kalpana, it's all an imagination. Swataha pramana veda vakya kalpena lakshana. Swataha pramana. The self-evident nature of the Vedas is lost when one gives a speculative explanation. Often, people think of scripture as an arena for the exercise of the creative faculty to come up with an original, hitherto unheard, unthought interpretation. Just like sometimes some people may look at a work of art and they may say that this work means this, or this particular pattern, this particular color, this particular design signifies this. And like that, different people may come up with different ideas of what the work of art means. Now, there can be a creative license in coming up with this kind of interpretations. At the same time, it is important to remember that while work of art may be open to a creative interpretation, that sort of creativity might well backfire if used in something which is meant to be like an instruction manual. Suppose a person sees a road sign and tries to do a creative reinterpretation of what the road sign means. Now, if a person thinks that a speed breaker symbol means that actually I should move fast. If a person thinks that a speed breaker, instead of being a symbol to indicate to us that we should slow down, is a symbol indicating that we can move fast, that the upper speed limit has been raised much more on this road, then that person will be in for a big jolt, if not an accident, due to running high speed over a speed breaker. Similarly, we too will get into a lot of trouble if we come up with creative interpretations that militate against the essential message of scripture. So certainly, we are meant to use our intelligence, and some people think that a disapproval of creative interpretation is a sentence against the intelligence. Not necessarily. We still have the opportunity to use our intelligence to understand what a particular sign means, and then we have the opportunity to use our intelligence to drive our vehicle intelligently as per what the sign is directed. Similarly, understanding the import of scripture, understanding its intended meaning as it was intended by its original composer, which ultimately is Krishna. Understanding such things is important. But still, beyond it all, what is more important is to recognize that we are at our core souls, and as souls we need to get guidance about how to attain spiritual consciousness and therein find lasting happiness. If we don't do that essential activity, then we will end up with a lot of information, but with also a lot of confusion about what the ultimate goal of life is and how it is to be pursued. So yes, scripture has portions which are poetic, which are works of art, and which can be interpreted creatively. But overall, scripture is giving us a message which is very meaningful and purposeful. It is not just subjective and prone to flights of poetic fancy and mutable according to flights of poetic fancy. So, the Swatah Pramanitva, the self-evident nature of scripture can be understood when we live according to scripture and pratyakshaavagamam dharma, when we experience within our own consciousness the purification that results by living in harmony with scripture. So when we mold our life according to this understanding that scripture is a manual, and first and foremost it gives us certain specific direction. Tasmat Shastram pramanam te karya karya vyavasthitam Gyatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum niharasi. That therefore, understanding scripture injunction, Shastram pramanam te karya akarya vyavasthitam, that what is the right action, what is the wrong action, karya akarya vyavasthitam, understand it properly. And Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam, and understanding thus the message of scripture, then act properly, O Krishna. O Arjuna, Krishna is telling. So, originality in understanding scripture is not mean coming up with a original insight in the sense of thinking of something which no one else has thought of, but it means it's not coming up with a new insight, but coming to the intended insight. So, just as the road driver's safety depends not on coming up with a new interpretation of the road sign, but of coming to the old understanding of the road sign. Similarly, understanding scripture requires understanding its intended import and not coming up with some, as it is said, kalpita, imagined interpretation, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is indirectly stating here that the devotional understanding is the original authentic intended understanding of scripture, and the impersonalist interpretation is speculative and misleading. Thank you.